where apparently from what we've heard, anything can happen. We're going to see if anything can happen because we basically have a David versus Goliath story to start our day, but then a crazy matchup at the end of the day, which we'll get into later. My name is Jay Hal. Joining me here is Dreadnought. Dreadnought, a tale of two different because we got top and bottom, and then we got the middle versus the middle. It's going to be a very interesting day when we see the matchups.
And I think when looking at the back half, you know, it gets even more dire and more kind of strange when looking at not only the compositions, but also the recent success with teams like Octalysis and Endemic there. But as you said, first up, that we do have No Tomorrow taking on HeroesHearth Esports, and that surely is going to be a difficult task for them, but HeroesHearth has something to prove here today.
Yeah, to put that into context, we're going to take a look at our standings where we can see where some of these teams do lie, because it is HeroesHearth now at the top. We thought Team Freedom might be making that run towards the top, but they stumbled yesterday, so HeroesHearth still sitting up at the top. No Tomorrow is the other team we're referencing, sitting there at the 8th spot. And then, of course, Octalysis and Endemic Dreadnought sitting in that 4 and 5 spot is what we'll be looking at as we see things go on today. We'll take a look at the schedule as well so we can see how this will play out.
As we're getting there to kind of get
we'll get there.
Unfolding. Here we go. Taking a look, though, we got to take a step back as to what already happened here, Jay Howe, and that was Europe. Dignitas coming out, dominant performance from them. What we expect here from what seems like the rival, if you will, maybe of Gen G sitting on the other side of the pond. But then we saw Roll20 take on Method. Roll20 finding their very first win here of HGC Europe.
Not unlike some of our teams here in North America going through some struggles and some changes of their own. And again, the nightcap, the final game of the weekend will be Octalysis versus Endemic, but we will turn our focus towards the David and Goliath. That is HeroesHearth Dread. They've been sitting at the top of North America basically since part 2 of phase 1. They took over, but they still came in as the number 2 seed going into mid-season brawl. But the performances that we've seen from them, they've been the number 1 team. For No Tomorrow, we know the narrative already coming back from the Western Clash. They are still adapting to role swaps. It is one of the most widespread role swaps we've ever seen within a team. 3 people all changing roles within that team. They have a lot of work to do.
They surely do, but the one kind of rock that we were talking about last week, it still ended up performing for them last weekend, was Jay Shrite, especially when he ends up getting on heroes like that Hanzo. The Dragon's Arrows have been very, very clutch and been setting them up, and that is a tool that I think they need to rely on today, but at the same time, if that is one player and one hero, we know that that can't hold up against a team as formidable as HeroesHearth Esports, but so surely every part of the roster here has to be able to step up.
We know old Tomster, aka T-God, we're still waiting for him to find a hero to pop off on as he's moved back to that range role. But before we get further into this, we sat down with Jen, and we also had on the other side, that is going to be BBJ. So we heard from them about this matchup.
I absolutely do have a lot of respect for HeroesHearth because I feel like their team achieves something that I would want for any team that I am on. The level in which it seems they work together so fluently and cover each other's weaknesses is definitely very respectable, which is why I think they're such a high-level team. I think that if we can harness the level of discipline needed to close out games and just play at our peak, we're capable of winning any set. But if we can iron out our inconsistencies this week leading up to HeroesHearth, just focus on discipline every practice session. I think that's the one true key to being able to actually take a set off a top team for us.
No Tomorrow definitely looks better with their role swaps, which I found pretty surprising because they didn't have that much time to transition to new roles. You know, Jin going to the off lane has looked pretty decent. I think they've looked better. I don't think they'll be good enough to beat us this weekend, but I think there's a chance they could upset a team if somebody overlooks them.
Maybe picking up the upset, just not today is what BBJ is saying. And who can blame him? I mean, his confidence, it's always, he's been probably the most outspoken. I think if Arthlon maybe had a microphone more often, maybe he would make some more bold comments. But BBJ is always the one, he's the rock for their team. And that we've heard so much of it's a learning process, we're trying to get better. But BBJ never really shies away from saying, we should win this. I feel confident. I love that confidence that he brings to that team. It's almost like it complements the other personalities on that team. So for BBJ to come out and say that, I feel it's almost needed because Dreadnought, we look at the teams, we see HeroesHearth at the top, we see No Tomorrow at the bottom. It is a tough task for No Tomorrow to take down HeroesHearth, but HeroesHearth is coming off a loss to Tempo Storm obviously a tough 5-game series, but we expect a team like HeroesHearth to dominate games like this.
Yeah, we should be looking for, I think, a certain level of bar from HeroesHearth Esports, especially after the results against Tempo Storm and some of the struggles that we ended up getting from them. And I think the biggest area that I know I'm going to be looking towards for HeroesHearth has got to be that proactive level of play. It seems like in every situation that they're behind, they know how to come back from behind because it's very clear the conditions laid out for them. But whenever they get that major lead and the opponent's not making a possibly clear mistake, suddenly that ability to punish and maybe force the hand of their opponents seems to drop off, especially comparative to teams like Tempo Storm. So I want to see that proactive play from HeroesHearth.
Well, I agree with you. If they're going to get the lead, they need to do it in dominant fashion for No Tomorrow. They're going to see if they can see these role swaps kind of play out. We're going to see what battleground we're going to, as No Tomorrow is going to take us to Battlefield of Eternity as we see the bans on Sky Temple for HeroesHearth and Volskaya by No Tomorrow, a battleground that when they first faced off Dreadnought, that was the first battleground we went to, did not go very well for No Tomorrow. So they're going to change the rhythm here of the way these games play out, because Battlefield of Eternity, it's hot and heavy early, and it never really lets up on a map like this.
Yeah, I will say, you know, we do rarely, it seems like, get teams that kind of approach HGC North America with the intent to have a major map mix-up. But the one that has always, for me, been that, you know, if I want to really bamboozle everybody, what is the map I'm truly going to master? It's Battlefield of Eternity. It seems like it's the one battleground everybody knows the highs and lows that can exist, but very few want to be like, you know what, this is our turf. This is what we're going to play here in North America. I don't know if that's the full direction for No Tomorrow, but they've been one of the few willing to kind of cater towards BOE, and I really appreciate that. And surely there's going to be a bit of a setback there for HeroesHearth, not as comfortable as things like maybe Dragonshire.
I think about things that I want to see. And if this was a meta maybe 6 months ago where Phoenix and Raynor didn't really exist in the meta, this would be like, okay, give me Jay Shrite on Li Ming. Give me T-God on some Greymane, you know?
Yeah.
Let me see where Tomster made his name. It feels like an eternity ago. We basically took a trip down history lane on a ride back last night because I was still thinking, who was that Lost Vikings player? The old Tempo roster. And we look back that there was a period of time, two and a half years ago almost at this point, there was a very brief period where Tomster was on a Tempo Storm roster. That's how far back in history that goes.
Yeah, it's a long, long time ago there. But it very much was, you know, kind of that rising moment for him within the scene way back here. HeroesHearth, though, now looking towards the draft. We talked about, you know, a little bit of the focus towards things like Hanzo beyond the fact that it's BOE because Jay Shrite, my goodness, sits there on the other side. That's something that might be brought to focus. Also things like Maev and Medivh. HeroesHearth Esports is not that they're afraid to be able to run either one of those, but don't have nearly maybe the affinity as some of the other rosters in North America.
Yeah, you know, we've seen the Medivh hammer play, so if that does come into play, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a matter of if Medivh gets let through. This is one of the battlegrounds that we would see Medivh get let through more often than basically every other battleground. But if that hammer comes into play, maybe that becomes an option. We're going to see the Genji ban, so no Maev, no Genji. And now we'll see where the other focus does come in, because Hanzo, we already know where Crowan sits. I think only 2 losses on that hero throughout the entirety of the year during league play. This is a Hanzo battleground still, despite all the nerfs.
It's really funny too, because we were just talking about the, you know, the Li Ming possibly for Jay Shrite and bringing out that from their side. But it's funny, both of the heroes that we're highlighting there are very much Crowan heroes, very impactful to Battlefield of Eternity as well. So maybe HeroesHearth, by letting some of those through on the draft or maybe dropping the priority, can find themselves, you know, with Crowan with that legendary Li Ming.
Well, will be interesting, Dredd, because we've seen so much priority on Deckard Cain when all those OP heroes are taken away. It seems that once you take away the high priority of a Maev or a Hanzo on a battleground like this, Deckard becomes that new priority. For No Tomorrow, they're not snap banning a Hanzo. They're going to take away the hammer option. For HeroesHearth, they now have the opportunity. They want to go into a first pick Hanzo, but again, Deckard, so strong overall.
Yeah, so strong on this battleground, but it is one of the few battlegrounds where you could make the argument, but Karzim rises in priority, so maybe that value would be one of those situations. That is, you know, been the meta for so very long. It's just one of those moments where maybe we'll see an adjustment there. Instead, they'll go with the more standard here with, maybe not more standard, but they go with the standard of a Hanzo having that race opportunity and kill potential. I think that drastically increases the threat of a Li Ming priority for No Tomorrow if they want to pick that up in this draft, so they can at least have some, you know, equal poke pressure when looking at the race.
I think No Tomorrow has to be very cautious with how they want to approach this draft without showing too much too early. HeroesHearth is the team that historically has gone double support in the past on this battleground. We do get the Li Ming, we're going Yrel, so they haven't shown too much. We even saw at the Western Clash, there was one team that banned Uther in that second ban slot because that was always Arthlon's hero to play that double support style and just protect Hanzo. and go into that. That still could be an option. Also, Medivh is still available here. So I want to see if No Tomorrow is willing to go into that and whether they show everything in their next 2 picks and maybe we get a last pick. Uther, something along those lines. It's going to be Dahaka Murden. I think they just have to be very careful with how they draft and what they ban.
It's a really good point that you bring up there. And even more so when you consider the opportunity, Dahaka is going to have a lot of offlane soak, especially if we make it post-second Immortal phase without too many major structures. And when I say that, mainly just talking about the forts, that offlane soak while still having the Hanzo race and kill potential within the 4-man is going to be detrimental, especially compared to that of the Yrel, even with the opportunity to get the very easy mount post-7. White main's the ban out now for No Tomorrow. HeroesHearth does have the opportunity, if they think the Deckard is worth that much of a value here, to get the ban at this point.
Deckard does seem like if he gets let through post-second ban, that is very surprising on basically any draft.
Yeah, it very much is. But again, I don't hate it purely because of the Battleground. It's one of the few that Kharazim does have that value. And I can see, making the argument that if HeroesHearth does that, then you get the Kharazim, puts you in a limited position. And there it is, Deckard banned out. One thing to note on whether or not Kharazim in this composition actually gets picked up, Hanzo's race and more so his just raw poking, if they get another really good poke, it actually really hurts the Kharazim. No longer can you rely on the value out of the race. You have to have a lot of proactive damage opportunities. So much so that I would argue, and maybe even promotes not going Iron Fist, depending on the situation. There is the Kharazim, and we get ourselves a Thrall.
I was actually going to say that when they didn't go double support HeroesHearth, they would run something like a Thrall to have that triple melee, which still gives you a wide variety of protection to keep Hanzo safe, but it also just front loads you so strong, and Thrall fits that role so incredibly well. So we'll see if maybe HeroesHearth has a different option available when we go down into the draft. We've got 5 seconds for these picks.
The support's my biggest kind of focus here for HeroesHearth, or the lack of.
The timing is so beautiful there.
The double lock in there with the solo support Abathur instead of anything of the like here. That does change a lot of the team fighting approach for HeroesHearth Esports and No Tomorrow when looking at that offlane pressure. The 4-man kill potential is drastically increased there with the Abathur McIntyre skirting around on Valeera.
Johanna seems really appealing for the reveal and super tanky. Instead, it's going to be the Garrosh. Hard to take down. It's okay to open up on a Garrosh, but Garrosh is not normally a gank target you see a Valeera open up on unless you have a full just arsenal coming at that. And a Valeera with an Abathur hat is very terrifying. Post level 7 especially, when you can just get the reset on the Q over and over and get that bonus damage off of that. The Hanzo following up on that, not necessarily there. This is not the draft I expected to see from HeroesHearth, but they said this is what we do. And there's a reason Abathur's always banned out against them.
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected either, but it very much feels like it is, HeroesHearth doing what they do and why they've been so dominant in North America. I'm not going to lie, JL, I really actually think that this might be one of those games where we don't see the Iron Fist. I think it's very viable to see a different argument with Transcendence. Again, based on the lack of healing that Abathur is going to have, Transcendence gains a lot of value on battlegrounds like this. It's pretty easy to reliably trade into that, especially with Air Ally at 4. It's removing the Garrosh Wombo, but you've heard my doubts towards that. Garrosh Wombo is not nearly as good as like a Murden going in the mobility and punching opportunities for the Kharazim. Maybe because of that and the battleground of lack of HeroesHearth healing, I think I like myself a Transcendence.
Iron Fist, definitely strong. Transcendence, we've seen players start to pick up on that more and more. Look, Akafe says that there's another talent at level 1. He's actually the one person that's run Insight so far. It's been a while. We'll see if we get it now. It's time for game number 1. No Tomorrow versus HeroesHearth.
And it was on Battlefield of Eternity even for that matter. So it's going to be interesting here how this unfolds. But in the blue, it is No Tomorrow with Casanova there on the Garrosh. We're going to have Tomster repping it up on Thrall. Jay Shrite, no surprise, repping the Li Ming. Jin coming out on Yrel. And last up is Akaface on Kharazim.
For those on the right side in red, this will be HeroesHearth. And BBJ, of course, the support. He's now going to be on the Abathur. Ishbu, he'll be on Murden. Homicidal, by the way. I forgot we've got this going on here. Congratulations to McIntyre. He's getting married this weekend. I know something about that. Hami, he's going to be playing on Dahaka. Arthalon will be here on Valeera, and Crowan on that Hanzo. So if you guys are wondering, I did get some word from BBJ. He advised me, hey, look, we're playing with a sub this weekend. McIntyre's getting married. I myself am part of that crowd as of this past Thursday, and I know my wife loves HeroesHearth, and she votes for them in chat, believe it or not. But they said, whenever we need a sub, whenever we need somebody to come in and practice, it doesn't really matter the role. They bring in Homicidal. He's been around. He's been in the pro scene. He's very well respected around the community, especially the competitive area. And so they bring him in, have a lot of trust in him to fit right in.
And if they've been practicing with him, that much, it very much is going to be probably a confident performing HeroesHearth Esports. Even more so when considering the competitive background existing behind Homicidal. But quickly, before we move on, any farther here, J-Hop, just a huge congratulations. Haven't said that before, so.
She put a ring on it.
Yeah.
Ooh, Ishbu's saying, look at this max range dwarf toss I got here. You're not grabbing a hold of me. Even walking forward, that time he's going to get a hold of. We're going to see he has no real support. Abathur, of course, dwarf toss just on enough cooldown to allow him to move forward. The one thing that's always fun with Valeera Comstred is always just watching the minimap. I know that's something we like to do, period. But just watching, where does Valeera go? Because wherever Valeera goes, that's where that Abathur hat will soon be cycling.
Yeah, and trying to get those ganks. It's currently cycling towards the bottom half here, but I do want to highlight No Tomorrow's pressure towards this front gate. HP's going to go in. Will he go for the Stormbolt? We get the brush talk from Homicidal. Silence drops there onto Li Ming. No teleport opportunity. Jay Shrite, he gets it, but the Abathur Needle Spine is enough to get the kill there. Casanova gets the heal from Aka. Armor's enough, and they survive here, but it does come at the first blood of HeroesHearth.
The snipe is real. Every time Valeera comes in, the discipline for Ishbu in a lot of these engagements on that dwarf toss, and I think that one might have actually been interrupted at the beginning. I didn't quite see how that played out, but it was a very interesting approach, and now we're going to see Ishbu and team. They're going to come and scout out this Shaman camp. This would be an interesting approach. Dahaka has already made his way back to the top, but Yrel for the side of No Tomorrow starting to get picked on here by Arthlon.
Yeah, mine is going to be there as well. Akafe is actually getting stunned. Casanova now going to get the flip over. Door toss will be available as the Groundbreaker already thrown down. Mine hit there, slowing the advance of Casanova and friends. But Arthlon makes it out here. This is where, now that we have 20 seconds out from the next Immortal, it's really going to matter. Casanova ends up getting the heal. Akaface is going to be there. Good dodge there from Arthlon to make sure Jay Shrite does not hit that max ring arcade orb.
My favorite thing about that, does he get that? Akaface gets interrupted. That just buys time. The thing about the level 7 talent is that it reduces the range on that. He dodged the arcane orb that time. Post level 7, that might have nipped him on the heels. It'll be fun to see that interaction post level 7.
So Jay, how on the approach here that we do end up getting there from Akaface, not going with the Transcendence, not that surprising. I think it's still very easy. Can you make the argument go with the very reliable Iron Fist? But I will say I am a little bit taken back by the fact we get the Earth ally over the Air ally. I thought for sure with a Valeera solo Abathur composition, removing the back half of her kit and being able to open up on top of her rather than letting her always initiate surely would have been the game plan.
Yeah, we do see that a lot, especially because you get charges. Whereas Earth Ally, it's one and done. And you get the reveal, you get the charges. We've also seen players use that in the past for just added Kerosene mobility. Speaking of mobility, Dahaka's coming in for the flank right away.
And Arthlon too, they land the silence there. Homicidal not going to open with the drag quite yet, and that makes Jay Shrite can kite away. Crowan though is the focus for Akaface and friends. He will get the shields, he will get the heals. Casanova is trying to retreat as well. Damage comes through, and they end up getting the kill there onto Hanzo. Now the focus set to Casanova. Hat comes on to Arthlon, but the focus is there from No Tomorrow, rebuttaling back and finding another kill here against HeroesHearth.
They're bringing it, Akaface, the supporting, making sure to get in there just in time, getting that track down on that kill. But the positioning of Jay Shrite at the start of that dread, that'll have to be shored up because being on what you could perceive as the enemy side there, and Valeera always lurking, you've got to be very careful. I think it's going to be paramount to stay near and around that Kerosene. That totem does provide you, I guess, some mitigation towards the autos of Valeera, but a lot of it will come down to just cycling that Q over and over. So it's going to be interesting to watch going forward.
Here's the back half of the race. Arthlon looking to join in as Hanzo still not yet to hit that 7 spike. Damage coming through No Tomorrow. 5,000 HP roughly here onto that shielding. Going to be going back up to the top lane due to the 4-man pressure No Tomorrow was able to apply to the bottom half pre-Immortal spawn. But they need to make something happen with this. That's one of the biggest things that I was touching up a little bit before, but always to consider against Abathur compositions. You need macro pressure, structure pressure out as soon as possible, not only for the XP, but for the limitations of the minions and information later.
Casanova sniffing out Arthlon. He's there for now, trying to go in. And I think you bring up an interesting point. I think it is up to them to obviously do a lot. This should be a kill there on Arthlon. That is going to be a kill. But you look at this, no level 7 yet. This took a while to unfold. But Hanzo is the only person that really has any type of ranged clear. He's the only ranged hero in this on the side of Heroes Hearth. So this is very terrifying. We even see Mule picked up anticipating that style. They need to fully commit to this. It's going to be another 10 seconds before minions get here. See how willing they are to commit to this dive with Valeera respawning.
I think they're going to commit to it, at least to just make sure they get the well. Or, excuse me, not the well, but make sure they get themselves the Mule. Stormbolt does land on the Casanova. Krillin now joining into the fight. Flip over on the Homicidal. Burrows down. Casanova still pretty low. Jin leaps in, knocks that back Homicidal. Pressure's going to be there. Valeera flanking on the back end, but the first kill here coming out for No Tomorrow.
They're committed. They're going in, trying to get the lockdown. There's a scatter arrow. It's going to hit. Casanova still able to survive. That's a double kill now against Heroes Hearth. We're looking at 5 kills to 2. Still no pressure onto that fort just yet. Licking the wounds is No Tomorrow, trying to survive the onslaught that's been coming at Heroes Hearth. Is keeping up a very measured pace that they have not let up since the opening minute with Arthalon there on the Valeera.
Yeah, they're doing a very good job of here, mitigating some of that kind of struggles of this composition for Heroes Hearth. Heroes Hearth did get a big victory, though, over that last skirmish, Jayhow, and that's in the fact that they were able to threaten off of that Mule. That top half fort, they're going to heal that back up, and that's why I was talking about some of that early game structure damage. Not only because the Mule threatened back, but more so how difficult it can be for Abathur to get that double lane soak whenever you pressure against him. And now, once again, No Tomorrow is going to attempt that. Also, you know, we were talking about some of the silver linings here of No Tomorrow in this roster, but Jin on Urella is actually a monster. His leap use and armor spreading has been ridiculous.
Here we go. There's the Dahaka Brushstalker in. Arthalon waits for the hat. He's looking to zone out, and this again threatens them off of that fort. You could see a full 5-man commitment there by No Tomorrow to try and get that fort down. That also would have given them a major push towards level 10. Instead, it's able to stall them for now. No Tomorrow does have poke. Shrite hugging that wall, making sure to stay near Akaface at any point. Arthalon, of course, when you are stationary, you are fully invisible after a short time.
Halftime show attempt is going to be won here for a moment. The experience lead is the biggest concern. Abathur is getting side soak over top and bottom, whereas No Tomorrow is not getting an off-lane soak, and they're already losing experience. Heroes Hearth can stall out and wait for 10s if they would like to do so.
Normally you could see a team like No Tomorrow just race, but the Hanzo's on the other side. And that's the thing, is like Iron Fist, Kerosene, plus the Leeming should work out well. Arthalon again, lurking around on that top side. You can see the pings coming in. They still have the lead for now. No Tomorrow might be able to take this right before 10. This could be a big win, but here comes Arthalon. He's on the prowl.
1 kill, and it's going to be 10s there for HeroesHearth Esports. Arthalon gets flipped back, though. He is revealed. Jin keeps himself alive. 10s picked up for both teams evenly here. Now Ishbu has to kite away. Avatar is met with a sundering very fast. The shielding Dragon's Arrow, everything thrown out there in HeroesHearth, still trying to pull away.
That just missed. That might have been enough to lock down Ishbu, but what is enough is the damage that has come in for No Tomorrow to secure Immortal number 2. The kill count 6-2, and the control seemingly has been in favor. I mean, Heroes Hearth at this point has thrown almost everything they've had. At any given moment, they're looking for a fight, or at least to scare them off. They do have level 10s now, but the amount of aggression from Heroes Hearth, it almost seems like they expected this to go better, but No Tomorrow has a lot of really good answers.
They very much do have a lot of the answers, but I think the biggest thing that we got to be highlighting here is that HeroesHearth Esports is still in, according to how their strengths as a team, prime position. They're a team that plays well from behind as long as it is not, you know, a full major talent tier, which by no means are we at that threshold, right? And I think that the composition for an Abathur comp, it should be playing slow. For me, we're right at the line, right at the breaking point in this game of like, is No Tomorrow really showing that they're going to get enough? Because they can't just get a fort, I feel like, with this next Immortal. They need to either get multiple kills with it and dive past it, make sure they can get that without their heroics after that last skirmish. I'm going to say probably not. So then what are they rotating out with once this first fort drops? And how much macro pressure do they apply in the downtime? Because if they struggle there, let Dahaka off-soak with Abathur in the medium over the next Immortal phase, I feel like that's when Heroes Hearth just goes, we're going to win in the macro sense.
The shielding on this is pretty decent, and my first thought is if they do get the bot fort, which it will be pushing bot lane, if they get bot fort, would it be enough for them to cycle out instead of pushing forward to the keep wall? Because that's when it becomes risky, because then you have the Valeera flank position, the Dahaka flank potentially coming in as we're ready to get back into the game. Is it a matter of getting both forts out of this? Would that be the more optimal safe call, or do you want to see them push further down?
So I think the safe call is a double fort there, but I don't mind the idea of like getting that ultimate pressure through just the bottom half of the battleground. The other thing you got to look at is how many mercenaries are available immediately after. And on Battlefield Eternity, in this situation, I think that's a double fort rotation. But with nobody prepping the Dahaka lane, it already shows that they're going to all-in siege through bottom rather than the conversion elsewhere. This is okay and definitely can help them keep that structural advantage, but they surely, again, need to make sure that it matters and find a way in the downtime to make sure Abathur cannot do what he's doing right now, and that is getting multiple lanes of soak for HeroesHearth.
Dragon Arrow was used in that last skirmish, so it takes away one of the initiation tools that they have. They end up getting the entire keep wall, so that is a large, well, almost. So close. That's 1,800 XP there left, which will now be healed up. That is a large chunk of XP at this stage of the game when you're looking for those talent tier pushes. So we'll see if they recommit. They have everybody down on that bottom camp. If they move forward, I wouldn't be surprised, but the fact that that mule comes down, I think you got to stay around. Just get a more poke, try and make it happen.
I agree, or as we highlighted before, possibly rotate to a different lane and get that pressure faster. Either way, that we're right at that moment. Will they get enough? I don't necessarily feel like the answer to that is yes. But No Tomorrow has done a great job so far at least stopping some of the major advantages where normally HeroesHearth has success. HeroesHearth actually wins early game skirmishes with Abathur comps more than pretty much I feel like almost anybody else in all of HGC. So the fact that No Tomorrow has held their own so far, I think they got the tools here.
Well, now
Valera, this is going to be a problem.
There we go. There's the Dragon Arrow. There's going to be the stun. Seven-sided strike used defensively, but that's going to be Thrall. He does get killed there. The Wave of Force gets the knockback. The onslaught continues here as everybody's getting locked down, but the Ardent Defender used there. Jin willing to walk back in. The clone goes down. Crowan still in pursuit.
Crowan hits a scatter, but not enough for the kill. Very close there on that last one thrown out from him. 15 seconds out from the next Immortal. Thrall will be back here for No Tomorrow before that ends up spawning, but it does give HeroesHearth a pretty big advantage when starting out this Shaman camp. Also keep in mind they have double global and double macro pressure out with this in the downtime. So mercenary advantage in favor of HeroesHearth is devastating here towards No Tomorrow, even more so when considering the fact that they have now, for the first time here, taking advantage in experience over No Tomorrow.
It's time for them to get the lead. Jay Shriti and team poking away. We'll find an app of their mind, which will reveal them. Arthlon just waiting in the wings, looking for an opportunity to go in. There's the toss taunt. Well, we wondered what that wombo would look like. Arthlon is just, he's like, look, man, I feel ya, but I'm going to stay right here. A hat actually is a weird thing. Yeah, it's a reveal.
As long as he casts a spell, and then the knockback there from the clone. Arthlon, damage coming through. Jin needs to get a reveal. Sundering comes out. See ya, nerd. Damage is there. No Tomorrow punishing here. HeroesHearth at any slip up.
It's a tricky thing. There was a weird Abathur thing that started to happen, especially around like when the symbiote hat started to show on the minimap. Like the minute he had it, I don't know if something got cycled there or whether it showed, but pings came out furiously and they knew he was right there. So that's a mistake on HeroesHearth's side, but that is a major capitalization for No Tomorrow to pick up another Immortal that's not as heavily shielded, but as this scales more and more, it becomes more threatening.
And some of the tech there displayed by, Casanova onto the Garrosh with the synergy on the flip taunt at the exact same time. The immediate follow-up there from Akapace. Definitely synergy being displayed here by No Tomorrow. And they've made it past the next Immortal phase where I expected HeroesHearth to really out-macro and out-pressure. So this is another major silver lining. They're going to get that fourth that maybe they could have spent that time with over the last one.
Dragon Arrow.
Arthlon getting a huge flank after. Seven-sided already dropped there by Akapace, but the silence afterwards onto Thrall. A lot of damage onto Tomster. He throws out the heals. He's getting a lot of the heals, actually, keeping himself alive. BBJ, the clone, will go down. Sundering thrown out, but Li Ming first to drop here for No Tomorrow.
Getting that clone down was crucial. I want to highlight the silence. I don't know whether it was the isolation or whether it was the Valera coming in, but they got the silence onto Yrel when that opened up, and Yrel was unable to supply that 35 armor during the initial onslaught because Yrel was the only hero not hit by that Dragon's Arrow explosion. So getting that, I think, made things much more difficult for No Tomorrow in the early part. Obviously, we saw probably the heal and the Ancestral Wrath come out from Tomster on Thrall to survive. But had that early damage been mitigated with that 35 armor, might have looked different for No Tomorrow. So wherever that silence came in, whether it was the clone, whether it was the Arthlon, or whether it was the isolation, it was very well done.
One thing, too, to keep in mind here for No Tomorrow as this game advances is that shouldn't be possible unless it's on to Akaface post-16. Cleansing Touch mixed with the 7 synergy there on the Radiant Dashes should make it very reliable to get an interrupt onto the Silence openers a majority of the time from Valeera. I will say I don't think it's as easy without the Air Totem, but it surely is something that we can rely on there for No Tomorrow. And I think they're going to have to, because a lot of the team fighting has been so dependent there on Jhin and his armor setup. It has been, I mean, at least at first it started great until Heroes Hearth started figuring out how to deal with it there on those silences.
Well, there is going to be some silver lining. Aldor Peacekeeper, and every time I look at that, I see Kaldor Peacekeeper. Whenever you get hit by a maximum Vindication on the enemy team, it reduces 30% of that damage, and they're coming in a clumped area, all melee outside of Crowan, trying to do that. So if he can get that off, that will mitigate more damage from that, whether it's the 30% reduction in damage or the 35 armor that he can supply. So a lot of this is heavily reliant on Jhin in the supporting role on that Yrel.
Pretty cool play here from HeroesHearth Esports as well, denying the rotation as best they could towards this bottom half. 16 will be won by HeroesHearth Esports. As this next Immortal spawns, the race going to be started by Crowan. A lot of damage opportunities from him, but No Tomorrow able to zone off. This is a little bit the concern I was talking about towards the last Immortal phase. Didn't come to light because No Tomorrow found a pick, but here is where HeroesHearth Esports is going to send that Dahaka into the off lane, Abathur Soak through the bottom lane, and make sure they win in talent tiers, then get the force and all in. How does No Tomorrow respond?
I want to see if Jay Shrite might go into Diamond skinned at 16, just to make sure he survives the early pressure, whether he just is reliant on the rest of his team. As Valeera goes in, there's going to be the silence. There's the taunt onto 2, including the clone. Homicidal does land the isolation, but we have the disengage, but there's going to be a tongue follow-up from Hami. 7-sided strike. Jhin comes in. They take care of the clone. They're looking for more.
But Akafe's trying to get the heal alive and keep Jay Shrite alive. He's going to be able to do so there. And now with this, No Tomorrow should be able to poke out and get a little bit of damage. Ishbu anchoring away, letting everybody know if HeroesHearth wants to move up, as we already see Hanzo splitting off to do what Hanzo does best.
Shrite has to be careful. Arthlon now with that 16 does have even more damage, especially when he opens up with Garrote. Reduces spell power at 13. Now increased damage on that Q when he comes in after the silence. It's super terrifying for anybody.
Crowan finishing off the race here, while the rest of HeroesHearth zone off with their 16 talents here. This is one of the healthier Immortals that we've seen spawn so far here on Battlefield, but I can't help but feel like No Tomorrow has to be very, very concerned here on how much HeroesHearth is going to look to make happen with this objective, especially the defense over this fort. Expect a very aggressive brush dock opportunity once Arthlon flanks from above, which he is constantly sharking at right now.
The one thing since the changes, remember the large structures, your forts and keep,
there it is.
Reveal. So if they can move into position outside of that, it doesn't matter. Murden gets exploded right out of the gate. There's a couple of silences coming in. The fight comes in, but Jhin is keeping this team alive. The Sunder comes in, takes down another as Dahaka's gonna fall there. The Immortal will get through this fort. But Jhin on this Yrel, Dread, has supplied so much support in these team fights between his 4 and 13 talents that it's making the fights more difficult for HeroesHearth out of it.
Yeah, he is very much stepping up for the squad. But another one we've got to shout out here is Casanova on that Garrosh. Every major breaking point for this composition, and a lot of my concerns that I had with this, I always talk about the Garrosh should not reliably be able to get that flip into a 7-sided combo. And now that's the 3rd time we've gotten that here from No Tomorrow. Arthlon now caught out by Jhin. Leap number 2 comes through.
Well, he got rooted in the middle of that. There's going to be the taunt, the blind taunt, because he is in that smoke bomb. They do see it. The minute that hat goes out, they're going to see if they can get that, but the movement speed is too much with that level 16.
But no
Jhin
fort.
coming in with the flank. No fort there, as there's going to be the open silence in the mid-air. Just high-fived him on his way across. Arthlon will live.
Really well done there by Arthlon. The timing on that teleport to make sure he can survive that. No Tomorrow. Hold off on what was an extremely scary siege there. I thought for sure that would have been a keep, but again, with Casanova setting up for that split isolation, they find themselves only losing bottom 4. Top may go down just purely based on this top camp and the pressure that Abathur and Dahaka have applied to this over the long run, but that is not too big of a setback. No Tomorrow should be able to rely on the 20 spike for the next Immortal phase, and normally into a double global, J-How, that is where you go. That's the point of the game you can't depend on. So there is a lot available for them.
Well, we got an assault coming in. We got an assault coming in on the left side. Valera was there trying to get the takedown. Li Ming took some damage in the middle of all that, able to walk away. By the way, Thrall did not go into his Q build, trying to make sure that he stacks up, instead getting 3 additional hits out of his Tempest Fury, making sure that he does have more of his trait available to stay alive.
Double camp pressure for HeroesHearth in the top lane as Wave of Force used onto Ishbel. A lot of resources there. Arthalon drops the silence. Casanova gets the cleanse. Groundbreaker used. Flip over. Detente there. 7-sided goes down. Dragon Zero comes through. Arthalon actually keeps himself alive with the Cloak of Shadows, and now the response here by HeroesHearth Esports. Keep in mind, double camp on top. This is against No Tomorrow here. They need to get kills fast and effectively as Arthalon flanking from behind. BBJ there with the clone as Ishbel gets killed there. Reset number 1 here for No Tomorrow.
Arthalon has no health. He'll get a hat in a second. There also is double camp on the side of No Tomorrow pushing in the bottom. We'll see who does get the response right away. There's going to be the top left pushing in for HeroesHearth, but at the bottom, part of that, most of that's been dealt with. There's going to be the drag on the Shaman. That will help clear that up naturally. Arthalon is looking to see if anybody will step out for him to get a kill.
Deshrite's got to be the target. Akaface will have 7-sided in 4 seconds, has the cleanse. Should put Radiant Dash, there we go. Damage still coming through, but Iron Fist is enough to scare it back.
That damage is insane.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't instant teleport. It just, you know, Akaface, you open with the silence, and if it's not on Akaface, dash teleport, but I couldn't tell if he had enough mana. Either way, Deshrite holds on. And we're back to the back end of this halftime show. The 20 is creeping in, though, for HeroesHearth. And surely No Tomorrow's got to do something about it.
Let's scatter arrow. Krohan's still on this Hanzo, and the Hanzo factor on this battleground is so strong, and 20 creeping up that even if No Tomorrow does manage to clutch this out, barring a kill or 2, which they desperately need, they still are going to have trouble getting the Immortal and pushing with No Tomorrow going into a 20 tier. So this is a very crucial moment in No Tomorrow's game plan.
Arthalon is just waiting for Deshrite once again. Akaface is split far enough away. There they go. They go for the combo. Silence opener. There. Now, cleanse comes through. Arthalon now is the focus here for No Tomorrow. Dash number 2 is stealth. Not an option as Sundering is there. Now it's an option.
But the race the entire time has allowed Hanzo and team, Casanova and Jim, not able to hold it off. They might actually get more. The Dragon Arrow follow-up, split focus, and nothing there. Arthalon just baiting them around. There's going to be the smoke and, well, a lot of shadows is, Akaface went in, see if he has another dash. He barely gets out alive.
Oh, Crowan
comes over,
jumps in.
Playmaker.
Jumps out. He isn't afraid of anything there. Stares him down, looks him in the eyes and says, this is my battleground, boys.
Wow. Well, there's that 20 value coming in at 13-20. Not too bad. Ooh, that scatter arrow again. Just chunking down. This should be a keep.
Jin, good interrupt there. Keep will go down 100%.
This might be more. This Immortal, the shield just now fell, so it will move into melee range, but if Arthalon can get there, remember the core also reveals you. Shrite has to get past there, does just manage to go in. Jin trying to survive, Arthalon being the target, but the Immortal starting to approach the core.
Shrite trying to find the reset onto Arthalon, but not going to do so fast enough. Crowan able to kite away with that natural agility as the shielding on the core has gone down. Arthalon opens with the silence. BBJ tries to finish the job, but the thing that is finishing the job here is that Immortal and HeroesHearth Esports, as they are going to take game number 1 on Battlefield of Eternity.
Not the cleanest of games we've seen from HeroesHearth, but they managed to clutch it out.
I guess when looking at the questions that we had posed before, right? Like the level of dominance, what do we want to see? That proactive play. I look at it after that last game, though, they did move according to plan, I think, at a lot of points. Definitely not the dominance that they want. Mainly the Garrosh flip combos. A lot of those times I feel like they've got to look at that and go, maybe, you know, got to clean this up here and there. But they're also, again, playing with Homicidal. Adjustment when not having McIntyre here surely has got to make that more difficult on approaching team fights.
That last Immortal phase, it really seemed like No Tomorrow just let it get away from them. The Arthalon came in, tried to get the blow up. We saw the save. Nice route there by Tomster to keep Arthalon at bay without getting the kill. But then they chased that kill. And chasing down a Valera post 16, we saw the movement speed on that Abathur hat with the symbiote, making sure to get that shield. And then that gives the movement speed. Already the natural movement speed when you're in the stealth mode as Valera. So just scooting away, no way for them to reliably reveal. It's all skill shots at that point, hoping that you can land something. Just didn't work out well.
I think that caters even more toward the argument we made early on, especially now that we watched that game play out in a lot of ways, is, you know, how many times Arthon getting chased would have probably been kind of thwarted very fastly, just going, here's an air totem on the ground.
Yeah.
Somebody hit him with a point-and-click CC. Or not even CC, but at least something to get
An
a
auto.
kill. Yeah.
The one thing that I think people underestimate against the likes of a Zeratul, especially a Valera, is the air totem. Just getting any type of reveal. I mean, most of Valera's strength comes from opening up in stealth mode. If you just get one auto, it's not a matter of, oh, we need to see you. It's a matter of just use one person, get an auto attack in, and they're instantly out of stealth mode, unable to enter that. And just getting that one instantaneous reveal oftentimes is enough to stop a world of pain that comes in. I mean, Zeratul kind of stops him, maybe dismounts him. But for a Valera, it just takes away so much of that strength, especially the level 16. You know, you get the silence, and then you get the extra damage coming in when you follow up with that Q outside of stealth mode. It just seemed like that would have been maybe enough to keep a lot of that, but credit to Jen, the talent adaptation that he had. Obviously, we know the 4 is very strong, but the 13 reducing some of that damage. But the minute they split Dreadnought, that was kind of when things fell apart for No Tomorrow.
It is one of the biggest struggles of Karazim as a support, is because it is sticking to your Radiant Dash and your healing type. Like, pretty much, if you ever go for a split like that against an Abathur Valera comp, you just go, whichever squishy I'm not near we can rely on is probably going to go down.
Yeah.
It just is it's the way the cookie crumbles, you know, with the kind of glass cannon approach of Li Ming's health pool, whether or not you take the talent.
Well, it ended up being Diamond Skin, so that was an adaptation, no glass cannon, instead of trying the reverse option. Wasn't enough there. But for No Tomorrow, I think at one point they were up 10-5 in terms of kills. It seemed like they controlled a lot of that, even when they gave up the punter or the Immortal before that.
Yeah.
They had a nice defense there, only gave up the fort. They had a lot of control. Again, late game, maybe the decision-making a little off, the split focus. But credit is where credit's due right there, is that they actually were in the lead for a portion of that game, and
maybe
it
even
was
a
very
majority.
close. Yeah, it was a majority. The experience obviously was kept up by Abathur, but they did do a very good job of at least holding on in a lot of moments.
Yeah, they surely did. And as we said, Jin played out of his mind. That's the second week in a row that I feel like he's had a very standout performance when he is onto the Arel, so it makes me really excited going forward, especially because it seems like a lot of teams, especially in North America, I don't feel like it's totally abused how powerful her level 4 heroic, or level 4 not heroic.
It's
but it
almost a
feels like
heroic.
how powerful her armor edition is, and the way that that can kind of synergize as a team, and how defensive but also still being proactive with his leaps. I think that's the biggest thing, is a lot of people probably overcorrect immediately, and it's like only defensive leaps back and forth, and a nice back and forth between him and Jin really showing for the squad.
Well, if you thought last map, maybe not an Abathur